Hey everybody, we are back with Act 3 of The Last Night in Soho week, where we are now going to review the movie The Last Night in Soho by Edgar Wright. But before we start that, Dane, tell everybody what they need to do before we send Will Smith over to their house.
Oh, yes. You want to get Darth Slapicus meeting you.
Yes.
Got to go back to Act 1 to figure that one out.
Yep.
But we would love you all to subscribe. Press the button. Tell your friends. Spread the word. We're hovering at around 160 right now. We're still on the long, slow trek up to 1,000. But we love comments, and we also want to make sure everyone realizes if you comment by this date, you will be put in a raffle to win this fabulous movie, Blu-ray.
Yep.
Not from JR's personal vault, but definitely just as shiny clean as he keeps
One from
his.
Amazon's personal vault.
Yes.
So Jeff Bezos' personal vault.
Yes. But we are, in honor of this movie, Last Night in Soho, we've got Soho Liquor Lychee. They also have a guava, by the way, and a starfruit version of this.
Ah.
Really tasty.
What about a jackfruit?
No, they haven't done that far yet. But really,
Durian. Have you ever heard of durian?
No.
It's horrible.
So you wouldn't want that.
It smells like donkey. But go ahead.
Great. So you can drink this on your own if you want. I mean, it's nice and smooth. It's very fruity. Definitely good chilled. As we've talked about before, you get lots of like thick sugars in here. So if you're a leg man, you're definitely going to like this beverage. But we've been pairing it with a London Dry Gin, which is a classic. You can't do wrong with this kind of blue on your bar. Throwing a little gin in here mixed in, and it works perfectly with a nice juniper, minerally earthiness with a nice citrusy sweetness. So, to the movie review.
I definitely recommend you go out and get this Soho Lychee. Seriously. If you like sweet and you like... that's perfect to put in a drink. So
yeah. Well, ironically, it's made in France, but then they have a little Asian. What do they call that? A junk? One of those junk boats.
Yeah.
You can't really see it very well, but because lychee is a Chinese fruit, and by the way, don't eat them unripened or you'll die.
Yep. You will die. So eat them ripened. Okay. All right.
Ripened.
Now, before we start.
Yeah.
We kind of alluded in Act 2 that we're somebody described our little YouTube channel reviews in a comment, and I liked how they described it so much that we are now going to call ourselves this genre. And the person said, and I'm going to give the man a shout out, Phil in Brazil.
Phil in Brazil.
Phil in Brazil.
One of our channel partners, right?
Put in a comment, one of our channel partners. He put in a comment that said, I love watching movie reviews in long form review, right? He goes, because you can get really down and deep into it. And he said he needed something to watch before he went to bed. And maybe this helped put him to sleep. I don't know.
I hope Phil kept you up.
So I was like, long form review.
We're going to get recommended.
That's what
now.
we are.
We also have all these hits in like the 11 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
We're suddenly getting all these subscribers. And they're like, thank you, Cult Lords, for putting us to sleep.
That's right. So we're not just movie reviewers.
Johnny Carson.
Our style is long form review, and just remember that. That is how we are now tagging our show, long form review.
Well, couples should watch us before they go to bed, like Johnny Carson, right?
There we go.
Stay for the Act 1, the monologue,
and
have fun during Act 2 and fall asleep during Act 3.
9 months later, if you have a boy, name him JR or Dane, So,
or Chauncey.
Or Chauncey.
Born to be wild.
So we are reviewing the movie Last Night in Soho. And this movie came out in 2021, October 29th, 2 days.
Fresh off the movie boat.
Yes.
2021.
It was put out by Focus Features. U.S. box office for this movie. Mm-hmm. Want to take a guess?
U.S. box office, I'm going to say 39 million. How close am I? Way off?
Not close. 10 million.
10 million?
10 million.
Oh my God.
Worldwide box office, 23 million. Mm-hmm. So already, I'm thinking this movie has been overlooked and underrated. What do you
Yes, it
think?
could have been on the list, I
Yes.
guess. With your list, yes.
Yes. So the screenplay is this was 100% written by Edgar Wright, and then he said he had some assistance from Christy Wilson Cairns on the screenplay.
So they were cited. Is their name actually on there? Go ahead, keep doing that. I'm going to check if it's listed with him as story by him, screenplay by him, and Christy Wilson Cairns. Okay,
Yeah.
and then he directed it. So
he directed.
another one of these directors who wrote it, like
Right.
our Wolf of Snow Hollow guy,
Yeah.
Jim Cummings, if I remember
Jim,
correctly.
Yeah.
So
Now, directed by Edgar Wright, and if you wonder, where's this Edgar Wright from? What has he done?
where have I heard that?
He
name
has
before?
directed Shaun of the Dead.
Oh,
He directed Hot Fuzz and The World's End, all with Simon Pegg, all
Yeah,
three of those.
right.
He directed Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which I mentioned in Act 2. Go back to Act 2 and see where it is on my list of most underrated
Yes.
and overlooked movies.
check that list out. We have 16 top underrated movies of all time, and
Unique
probably
movies.
most people have not seen any of them.
Yeah.
But they're all really good movies.
Yes.
So,
He's also directed Baby Driver.
oh, okay. Yeah.
And you know what else he did?
What?
He did the fake trailer in Grindhouse for Don't.
If you are thinking of going into this house, don't. If you are thinking of opening this door, don't. If you are thinking of checking out the basement,
Remember that
yeah,
one that
right,
says,
right.
Don't go in that room. Don't open that door. Don't. You know,
Don't.
yeah.
Don't.
Oh, I wish we could show you this whole trailer because it is so freaking funny.
We could probably show that.
You think so?
We'll try to get away with
We'll
it.
try to get away with
We're
it.
going to see right now. And I don't know if we get away
And
with
if you just saw it, that means they didn't put a copyright claim on us. If you didn't see it, sorry. Go Google Don't Grindhouse trailer. It is hilarious. All right. So this movie stars Thomasin McKenzie. Now, did you know her from anything?
Old.
Well, she wasn't old, wasn't
She
she?
was the blue-eyed lady that you pointed out. Like, why does that woman have such
Lovely
blue eyes?
lady,
And then the next one has
blue-eyed lady.
no blue eyes.
Yes.
The major mistake. We reviewed Old, by the way, and so she plays the younger teenage version of. I'm not going to go into the specifics, but then they have an older version of her,
Yes.
and the lady has like dark brown eyes.
Yeah.
Like, how can you go so blue? It's like this blue to all of a sudden like
Dark brown eyes.
Brown
My eyes.
eyes. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like major mistake.
Yeah, so she was also in Jojo Rabbit. She was in.
yeah, I forgot about that.
She was in Lost Girls, and she was in Power of the Dog. That was just up for Best Picture. We watched the trailer in Act 1 as one of the. Remember the one with Benedict Cumberbatch?
Yes, I do, and I'm like, what? She was in Power of the Dog.
She was in Power of the Dog.
There's no. It must have. Oh man, I'll think of what it was, but I'm like drawing a blank on what she played in that movie.
Did you see the movie?
Yeah, we saw the movie. I can't think of her face. And it must have been a very small role because. Oh, I know what she was. She was. She played a very. She was one of the. She was a side maid in the main house of Benedict Cumberbatch.
She was a side chick too.
She was a side maid.
Okay.
She wasn't the lead housemaid, but they had her totally blondish.
Okay.
And so it completely threw me because in this movie she's a brunette, and then she goes into more like golden blonde. But yeah,
All right. Also in this movie
she wears a bonnet.
is Anna Taylor-Joy. Mm-hmm. She plays Sandy.
Great actor.
She was
Actress.
in The Mutants, The New Mutants, Peaky Blinders, The Northman, and most recently Queen's Gambit.
Yeah. That was one of the highly rated series, and one of our really early episodes, we talked about that. If you guys have not seen The Queen's Gambit, you don't know what you're missing, because it's such a great TV series.
In fact, I just had somebody call me the other day looking for a TV series that they could watch and like kind of binge over the weekend. And the first thing I went to is I said, have you seen Queen's Gambit? And this person said no. And I said, there's your weekend. And
You're welcome.
and this person says, what's it about? And I said, it's about chess. And he goes, what? I go, just watch it. Trust me.
And this is big burly friend of yours, right?
Yeah. So Queen's Gambit, great movie.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to mention just two other actors. Matt Smith, he plays Jack, and
One of the Doctor Who's?
he's one of the Doctor Who's. He was also in Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, and he was in The Crown.
Oh, yes, right. He plays the prince to, the main prince to the queen.
Gotcha.
In one of their segments, because you haven't seen The Crown, right?
No.
The Crown it's like different
A bunch
decades.
of pretentious British
It's
people,
different
right?
decades.
Okay.
So Claire Foy plays the original queen.
Okay.
And then he's the husband in that decade.
I thought you were going to say he plays the next queen.
No.
Okay. So the next actor that I was going to bring up was Michael Ajao. He plays John. He was in the movie Attack the Block, which was like a British movie about aliens coming into London, and all of the kind of Cockney guys have to defend London. And then he's been in a bunch of British TV series.
Isn't what's his name from Star Wars also in Attack
Yes.
the Block?
Yep. John Boyega.
Boyega, yeah.
Yep, he's in Attack the Block too.
Star Wars connects to everything, doesn't it?
It all comes back to Star Wars. Okay? That's what we keep trying to tell you in our cold opens.
Yes.
All right. So I just wanted to read the movie summary real quick. An aspiring designer is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s where she encounters a dazzling wannabe singer on the streets of London. But the glamour is not all it appears to be, and dreams of the past start to crack and splinter into something darker.
Yes.
All right. So, Dane, we are about to discuss this. We're going to go pretty heavy into the details.
Long form on the deets.
We're going to go long form on you. Hope you're ready for some long form. And if you're not ready for some long form, what can they do, Dane, and avoid the spoilers?
Oh, yes, you can always avoid the long form of our review by jumping to this point above our heads into the future. Press the little bar at the bottom of your screen and go to the future of this long form review to avoid any spoilers. We'll give you the Cult Lords ratings at that particular point in time. But right now, we're jumping right into the deets pool. So let's go. Movie.
Bye. Okay. For those of you who stayed, you must enjoy long form. So we're going to...
Edward Longshanks.
Yes.
Edward Longform.
Yes.
The Edward Longform of the reviews.
All right. So, Dane, our opening scene, a record is playing old 60s music, and a young girl is dancing around her room in a fancy ball dress. This is our main character, Eloise, played by
Ellie.
Thomasin Mackenzie. By the way, Thomasin, that is a very unique name for a girl, isn't it? I've never heard that before.
I've never heard it either. I wasn't sure because her accent in the movie kind of switched a couple times. Did you notice
I think
that?
she's British.
I thought she might be Welsh, but then all of a sudden later I was like, Irish? I'm here, it's like, it kind of moved.
She's from
But she talks
the
with
island.
a little bit of an accent like this.
Yeah.
She's very wispy when she talks.
So Eloise, who's dancing around, we find out she's a dreamer. She loves the 60s. She loves the music of the 60s, the fashion, the proper life of the 60s.
We should mention this is present times, the movie.
Yeah, it's in present times. Right. But she yearns for the 60s because her mother and her grandmother turned her on to the music as a kid. So all of the record albums that she listens to are from the 60s.
Petula Clark.
Yep.
Celia something. I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
Your classic.
Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Right.
I don't know.
Maybe the Ventures. We got the Venture Beatles. Although they didn't play one Beatles song in the entire movie. So.
They didn't want to buck up for that.
They found all the other great songs from the 60s. They
didn't want to buck up for that.
Into the movie.
So she wants to be in the fashion world, right? And so in comes her grandmother saying that she has a letter for her, a special delivery. And they open it together to find out she's been accepted to one of the highest fashion schools in London. She gets to go out and live her dream.
Right.
Because they live in kind of the English countryside.
Yeah, they live in Surrey, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember where it was. But
obviously the countryside.
Surrey. What? I mean,
Surrey.
Oh, okay.
Surrey.
I thought you were trying to get some information there. So.
Actually, I'm surprised the phone didn't go off.
Oh, yeah,
They
well.
must hate that there.
I know.
Surrey?
Surrey, yeah.
Yes, you're there already.
So she packs up her bags, gets ready to go, and her grandmother gives her a picture of her mother. Oh, and by the way, we did have to skip a part. Because we did have to skip a part.
Mysterious.
There's something special about Eloise other than loving music of the 60s, loving fashion. She does live with her grandmother, and that's for a reason, because her mom passed away when she was a young girl, but she has a special ability. What's that ability, Dave?
I guess to see dead people. Well, it's kind of
they call that in other movies. They call that The Shining.
The Shining, yes. Yeah. So her mom all of a sudden makes. Well, you assume that's who it is, by the way. I mean, based on the picture. But her mom all of a sudden appears in the mirror that she's in her room,
and she just smiles at her.
And she's just like a friendly mom, like, hey, you know. In other words, but you know, the weird thing about that scene, obviously, it changes later. But you weren't really sure, was she really seeing a ghost, or was that just her imagining her mom? Because it's still a little on the odd side at this point in time.
You took it
right
immediately.
Away it was a ghost?
As soon as her grandmother said, you know, that you have a special gift, you know what I mean? And we've known about your gift for a long time. I immediately knew it was a ghost.
You didn't think that was fashion?
No.
All right.
So,
well, I mean, you know, I definitely agree. I mean,
well, you had to know that part because it kind of sets the movie.
Well, if you didn't think it was a ghost in the beginning, it definitely turns into a ghost later. So let's put it at that premise. So
she was accepted to fashion school. Yep. She got her bags packed. She gets into a car or on a train.
Gets on a train, and it's a long train ride.
And her mom warns her. Or her grandmother.
Granny.
There's a lot of crazy men in the city. Watch out for the men.
Those urbanites.
Yes.
Those metro.
And then, so what's the first experience she has in the taxi?
Yeah, she gets out of the train after a really long ride, gets in the taxi, and of course, it's
a creepy guy.
Mr. Creepy, the taxi guy. And
creepers.
I go to my wife, I'm like, really? I mean, is that what that guy was thinking? He's like an older guy driving a crap, and he's like, hey, sweetheart, how you doing?
Hey, anything you need, I'll be here for you. Hey, you want my number? I'll come get you. Where do you live?
Where are you staying?
Yes.
Where do you want me to drop you off? And of course, her ears or hair on the back of her neck is immediately up.
She's freaking out.
So she decides, I'm getting out early of this cab ride.
So she does get out. She somehow doesn't even have to check in, or they just don't show that spot. She knows exactly where her room is. She goes to her room, and she meets her roommate, who's kind of a party socialite, stuck-up girl. She tries to bond with her, but she finds out very quickly when they go down the hall to another party that she has not bonded with her friend, because her friend kind of stabs her in the back, or her roommate, I should say.
Oh, right. Her friend feels very early on competition.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're going to be better than me, so I'm going to have to kick you out of the clique.
She makes fun of her because, Eloise has shown her that what she's wearing, she made herself. So when they get into the big group, she's making fun of what she's wearing with the other girls, and they all do that. Mm-hmm. So basically, Eloise is a huge fish out of water here, right? She's been raised in the countryside. She doesn't know urban living. She hasn't been around very many people her age, and it's not going too well when it begins, right? Mm-hmm. But they go to class, and
teacher really likes what she's doing.
There's
60 ethos that she's tapping into.
She meets a guy there who seems to be much more interested in her than she is in him, and that is John, who we talked about. And John, wants to show her the ropes, wants to ask her out, wants to do stuff with her. Eloise will have nothing to do with it. But after a couple of montages of party scenes and going to a bar, Eloise has had it up to here with dormitory life. So she decides she's going to go out and look for somewhere else to stay outside the dormitory. Mm-hmm. And that brings her to a 2-flat where there's an empty room upstairs. The landlady, kind of an unpleasant lady.
Only wants women.
Has a special rule, has a couple special rules about, drinking and stuff like this. But one of them is no boys after 8 p.m., right?
Oh, it was no boys.
No, it's no boys after 8 p.m.
Oh, okay. So she was more open-minded.
She was a little bit more open-minded, but no boys after
She wanted
8.
a female renter. That's it.
She wanted a female renter. She was like, I need 2 months up front, 2 months deposit. Got all these rules, but if you can follow them, then the room is yours.
Right.
So Eloise is like, sure. But she realizes she's got to help fund this apartment because her scholarship afforded her the dorm, doesn't afford her the apartment.
I was kind of wondering where that money all of a sudden came from.
Yeah, so she had a little bit, it looks like, but she knew she needed to go out and get some more. So she goes out and takes a job as a bartender at the local pub.
At the local pub where she, was there early on, right? When she got out of the cab, did she go in there from the creepy guy? And she kind of realized she could get a job there, but then she ran into the Terrence Stamp character.
Yeah.
This other creepy guy.
Yeah, another creepy guy. But time goes on. Weeks go on as she is staying in the apartment. She's doing well in school, but after a few days, something different happens to her when she goes to bed at night. And what happens is she starts. Well, and you don't know if it's a vision or a dream that she goes into.
Originally, I thought it was a dream, but then all of a sudden it's like happening so fast. Yeah. She literally like closes her eyes and
she's having visions that take her out on a street alley, and she walks down the alley, and then all of a sudden there's neon lights, there's people bustling, and all the cars are from the 60s, and she realizes she has just gone back in time. And she is in the 1960s London, and she walks up to a movie marquee. Did you see what movie was playing?
Yes, Thunderball.
Thunderball with Sean Connery.
That was an amazing shot with that whole, I wonder how they reproduced that, because it looked real, like it was really a movie theater.
Oh yeah, they probably got a real movie theater and just put up Sean Connery Thunderball there.
But it was a huge marquee.
It was a huge marquee.
Yeah.
Those still exist.
Very powerful.
So she walks into this, and this must have been some heck of a theater. If they're playing James Bond in this theater, but she walks in and it looks like she's almost in this gigantic hotel lobby. And there's stairs that go up and there's stairs that go down. And right before she goes downstairs, she looks over to her left into a mirror to see it's not herself.
Right.
It's a different girl that she's looking at in the mirror. And it is Sandy, played by Anna Taylor-Joy.
Anna Taylor-Joy
from The Queen's Gambit.
And at this point, we should point out, by the way, that she's very blonde.
Yes.
But she's been a brunette.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
Still a brunette at this particular point.
I've got that, So
but she sees her in the mirror and realizes, oh, wait, and this is where the dream kind of changes a little bit, right? Because all of a sudden it's like, I'm you and you're me kind of thing.
She starts realizing she's able to see this girl's life from her eyes and her vantage point, her POV, if you will.
Right. The POV changes.
It does. But the question is, and we don't really know this, is this a vision? Is this a dream? Or has she simply stepped back into time? We don't know. So she goes downstairs, and this is where I'm thinking, this thing must be huge, because if this is a movie theater showing Sean Connery's Thunderball, she goes downstairs, and what you see is one of the most posh underground British nightclubs of London, right? A lot of upper crust, wealthy people there. A lot of upper crust.
Gentlemen in tuxedos.
A lot of gentlemen and
thin lapels and bow ties.
Penguin suits,
dancing with the ladies.
And she's getting immediately hit on by the old men.
Yes.
And she, kind of laughs.
This is Sandy walking through.
Sandy.
Now all of a sudden you're only seeing Sandy.
You're only seeing Sandy. And, she asks the bartender, who is the owner, because they actually have a singer up on stage who is, being heralded as the great singer in London Underground, right? And Sandy wants that life too. And she's there to chase her dreams. So he asks the bartender, where's the owner? The bartender says, the owner's out of town, but, our manager of the bar is right over there. And that's where she points, or the bartender points to.
He says you should talk to him if that's what you want to do, is become a singer. This
is Jack, played by Matt Smith, Doctor Who.
Yep.
And he's over in a corner, kind of with his hand up, talking to a lady.
Another lady. Looks like he's a groovy looking guy. He's got his hair slicked back. He's wearing another form of a tuxedo. He's just chit-chatting, smoking.
Yep. So she walks over to him and kind of breaks him off and talks to him, starts to try to charm him, asking, how is it that she can work there and be
She
that
wants
person
to be on that stage.
on that stage where the lady is singing.
Because the bartender's kind of alluded to this guy helping her do that.
Yeah.
He's very vague about it. Like, oh, you want to be the singer? You should go talk to him.
Yeah.
And there's a lot left out of that particular comment, but...
We're not going to go into everything. We're not going to be that long form. So, Jack says, well, convince me. What makes you talented? So she gets out on the dance floor and she starts dancing by herself, but she is gaining attention with her dancing. Like, there's a lot of men in the club that are now salivating
Cameras like
wolves.
The camera's sliding around on their saliva on the floor out of their tongues.
She's a great dancer. She's dancing, and men continue to come up and wanting to court her. Can I buy you some champagne?
And she's
Can I buy you
no.
some? She's like, no. And she finally says, and he goes, why not? And she points to Jack and she goes, because I'm with him. Right? So she goes, and Jack kind of escorts her off the dance floor.
There's a big punch scene that happens in
not yet. He's pulling her off, and that guy grabs him by the shoulder, like, hey. And that's when he realized, hey, you don't grab me like that, buddy. And that's when the punch scene comes, right?
He slugs one of the patrons.
Yes.
Patrons.
And then they go running out,
Right.
And I'm like wondering, this is your bar, dude. Throw that guy out.
We thought it was his bar.
Well, yeah. So
it revealed a lot that he had to run out.
Right. They run out, but you're thinking, this is your bar, dude. Throw him out, right? So she goes running out with him, and so they go down for a nice stroll, down the
it's like midnight, basically.
Yeah, down the boulevard.
Down the boulevard.
And they kind of come up to
alleys.
Another theater, but it looks like it's already closed because it's kind of late. So he says, hey, you want to go in? And he goes, maybe this is where you start. And she goes, here? He's like, it's better to start here than nowhere.
He does say that, but that's the next day.
Oh, is it the next day?
Yeah.
Okay.
They come back out, and then he's like, I'm taking you someplace. And then he introduces the one with the R over the door.
It is.
Yeah.
So you're right, because I actually do have this in here where I go in Act 2. I said, meanwhile, back in the real world, when Sandy goes to her school, she's now thinking about what had happened last night.
Right, because in that scene where Sandy is walking around and we see, every once in a while she'll look in a mirror and it's the other girl's face in the mirror.
Yeah, and what that girl is wearing is this like kind of pink outfit with no shoulders, kind of a around the neck, no open shoulders dress, and so
it's like a '60s chiffon, pink, silkish looking.
So you see Eloise,
Pierre Cardin with white boots.
All the students in the fashion school are told they need to start designing their own line. So you see her starting to design this very chiffon outfit, and the model that she's put on paper looks exactly like Eloise.
Sandy. So she's basically
Sandy. Yes.
She assumes then that's a dream.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, and I've been inspired by a dream, so this is what I'm going to make my entire fashion initial line or whatever we're going to call it for the class, like that.
Right.
So we're back in the real world.
We're back in the real world. So we're going to go back one more time. She goes back that night, back into the dream. That's when he takes her into the second nightclub. And this is where, Sandy, he says, yeah, let's hear you sing something. And he's got one other guy in that theater.
Empty place.
It's totally empty, but he's brought one guy just to listen to her.
Right.
So she sings a song. And what's that song?
Downtown.
Go to Act 1. You'll see my musical debut.
This guy sings. He not only dances, he sings.
Poorly. Poorly is my girls tell me I have a horrible voice. But believe it or not, I did sing in concert choir in high school.
Were you like a high falsetto?
No, I was a tenor. But I competed and actually got rated a 1 at state.
Is that a good?
That's the high.
Oh,
That's
really?
the high, yep.
And how old were you?
17.
Oh, okay.
But you know what? Singing is like a skill that you have to keep up on. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm pretty talented. I've worked really hard to be singing. I'm going to go 30 years without singing, and then I'm going to just bring it up tonight and be a great singer."
I thought you were singing in front of your girls all the time. Are you getting Are you a shower singer?
No, I'm not. I'm not a shower singer.
The best acoustics in there.
I know. I'm a car singer. I have a funny song or story. This happened about 2 years ago. I'm driving and I'm listening to Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm singing. And I don't know if you've ever seen the dancing to Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation in the video, but there's a lot of hand motions they do in this. And I'm sitting at a stoplight doing this, doing the hand motions, dancing. And I look over and there is a car of 4 teenage girls with their phones doing this. And they're recording me dancing in my car.
Can they hear the song?
Yeah, because I had the window open. And I'm like singing Rhythm Nation, you know what I mean? And they're like dancing. And then I see them and I just kind of give them that. And then they were all like, oh, way to go, A+. So
You're going viral.
I might have made somebody's TikTok or multimedia somewhere.
Might be out there.
My girls told me, Dad, you went viral somewhere and you just didn't see it.
He's viral in China.
So we digress there. We digress.
So she sings her amazing Downtown song and they're super impressed. She's ready to take off.
Yes, ready to take off. But they say, not yet. We're gonna put you in this this other
well, you don't know that yet.
This is another night. Well, so we go back to the real world actually. So now it's been night 2 that Eloise has had this dream, and now she has seen Sandy 2 times. So she goes and does a little switcheroo on herself, and this is where I think you've been leading to.
Yes.
What does she do, Dana? Look
She
more
goes
like
out
Sandy.
and she completely changes her entire look. Blonde hair, eye makeup, everything to look really much
Just like her.
like Sandy, as close as she's envisioned in her mind.
Yeah. So she shows up to class that way.
Right, and people
Of course,
are like, what? Who?
Yeah.
And they don't even recognize her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a dramatic move.
But of course, the mean girls all make fun of her.
Yeah, they're like,
but of course, the boys were all like, oh, hubba, hubba, right?
And then the teacher actually loved the look
Yeah,
too.
she did. She loved the look.
So that was the weird thing.
And then she even like FaceTimed her grandmother, and her grandmother was like, "Oh, I like it.
I wouldn't even have recognized you.
I wouldn't have recognized you."
Right. And so, everything's going great for this girl because she's come up with a great, fashion line or whatever you want to call it for her initial thing. Everyone's loving what she's doing, and then she goes back into her dream state.
She goes back into her dream state. Now she's sitting in the audience at that club where Sandy tried out that was empty. Now it's packed. It's packed with people, with men.
It's all men sitting in the chairs.
There are some women in there. There were a few women in there, but it's primarily men.
Right.
Okay.
Then you understand it's a men's club.
It's a men's club, but women go to men's clubs too. But there was
all the guys are dressed in like tuxedos.
Yeah, but
so
there was
like a high-end men's club.
In the audience. There are a few women with like fur, like stoles.
Were there? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And they're sitting with some men.
But she goes and sits like, of course, some open seat. She's dreaming, and somehow that seat's right there is open.
Yeah, and so she's by herself, sitting there, and like
thinking that Sandy's going to come out.
You hear the music gearing up, and the curtain is coming up, and she's like ready to see Sandy, and there's the main singer, and she turns around, and it's not Sandy.
Right.
It's some other girl,
some other blonde in an outfit and a top.
No, I don't even think she was blonde.
Yeah, it was blonde. It was like a different color blonde. But
so she's singing and dancing, and then from the side, like about 6 girls come out, 3 on each side, and are the backup dancers, and there is Sandy.
Sandy's dancer number 2.
Yeah, she's dancer number.
And they're all wearing.
She's dancer number 2 on the left.
On the left, very seductive looking clothing, like you'd see at a cabaret show or whatever.
Yeah.
And the woman is, and then so the main character, what's her name in this? Eloise is dumbfounded. Like, what? Why isn't she up there like doing the main singing thing? And then Sandy goes through the entire routine,
and you can just tell
on her face
that she's like, not happy.
I do not want to be here.
I do not want to be, somebody's backup. You know what I mean? I want to be the star.
And she's doing all this like very seductive moves, but with this face. She bends over backwards and looks right at her.
Yeah,
wide legs and all this with this look on her face, like, I do not want to be here.
So after the dance is done, and Eloise got to witness Sandy as the backup, she gets to follow Sandy, who goes out with Jack, and they go to a different kind of gentleman's club. And there they're sitting across the table from some other men, and one of the men, dirty old men, like all of these men, says, well, I would love it if you and I could spend some time together alone.
And he's in charge of the next big club.
Yeah.
Right?
And she kind of grabs Jack and says, well, I'm with Jack. You know what I mean? And the old man says, well, Jack's not going to mind. And this is where things change. Because she's expecting Jack to stand up and say, oh, no, we're together.
Right.
But Jack goes, oh, no, I don't mind.
I don't mind.
And then that's where she realizes she might not be on the road. It all starts hitting her. She might not be on the road to that center stage. Maybe she's being used as a pawn here. And, she is being pushed off on now this man. So they then go through this kind of montage of her sitting at like a table, and every old man in the club is, can I buy you some champagne?
I love that name.
Yeah.
What's your name? Alexander.
And,
I love Alexander.
Everyone
Sandy.
is a different one.
I love Sandy.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Ellie, she goes Xander.
love-
She makes up a different name for every guy.
Every guy
and
says
it's
the
this
same
funny
thing.
montage as they're all offering her to buy her champagne.
And they hint it's really cheap champagne too the whole time. And it's not like Cristal or it's like Rydell or something.
Yeah, you're right. Not Veuve Clicquot. But anyways, so she goes through this montage, and one guy says something to her that, hey, maybe this is not your potential. Maybe you have something better to do. Yeah. Kind of makes her think.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
He's a good looking guy, but he's obviously not like the other guys.
He's not like the other guys. But anyways, I digress. But Sandy kind of realizes, you know what? My role here is kind of to be prostituted out. And I think she kind of accepts her role, because then she starts seeing some of these gentlemen. You see some of these gentlemen like showing up in her room, and then just as something's about to happen, Eloise wakes up. Right?
Well,
right.
Remember, the point of view is we don't really know what Sandy thinks.
Right.
We can just see what she looks like. And so Eloise is the one who's realizing, oh, she's prostituting herself now. She's filling in the pieces.
You're right. Eloise is filling in the pieces, and you're right. We don't know how Sandy feels. Like, we don't know if Sandy despises this, has simply come to an acceptance of this, or sometimes you can see her almost enjoying the talk with the champagne. So is she enjoying this? You know what I mean? You don't really know. It's kind of up in the air about what Sandy thinks is going on.
Well, when that champagne scene, you could tell she's getting annoyed by these guys all the time.
Yeah, but she's also having fun with it too.
Right, and then she's having fun with it, and then you get to a point where, because we go back to reality again, Ellie wakes up, then she's back in school, and then all of a sudden, this is when she's in her daylight, right? She's seeing the ghosts.
Well, and so that's what I wanted to bring up. So in the real world, Eloise, who's going to school, she also goes to work in the bar. She starts in the very beginning, kind of seeing things out of the corner of her eyes. Shadows down alleyways. Shadows over here. Shadows over here. All right. So, but it's very subtle in the beginning. But as time goes on, it starts intensifying. It starts getting more real. And she'll walk around a corner and there'll be a guy in her face, right? You know what I mean?
Right, with no face.
With no face. It just it's a ghost, right?
Looking guy, yep.
Yeah, and he's always trying to talk to her, but you can't really make out what they're trying to say. It's like, right? So she's freaking out. She's freaking out. And now she's scared. And she becomes so scared that it's Halloween. And she doesn't want to go back to her flat by herself.
Because these dreams
are getting so more and more intensified.
And more terrifying.
Yeah.
Because Sandy's obviously going through something and she's witnessing this whole journey.
Exactly. So she goes to the boy in the class that has a fixation on her, John. And she says, hey, John, I don't want to stay at home tonight. I want to do something for Halloween. And he was like, oh, really? Well, there's going to be this big party. I'm going to dress up as this, maybe.
Well, they both say, you're in black, I'm in black, we just need some makeup.
We just need some makeup. So they kind of dress them up like as ghouly zombies or something,
I
right?
thought they did a great job for the last minute.
Yeah. So they go to this bar and
giant rave.
They're dancing, and she's having a great time. This is like one of the first times you can see her having a great time in the real life.
Right.
Here in college, and she's having a great time. So as they're dancing and she's drinking and he's drinking, she whispers in her ear, "Do you want to come back to my flat?" And of course he's like, "Oh, sure, Eloise." He's like kind of nerdy there, but she said, "All right, there's only one thing. My landlady says no boys past 8, so we're gonna have to be really quiet. You're gonna have to sneak in." So they go back to her two flat.
They're both very drunk at this point.
They're both very drunk. So like when they walk into the two flat, they're being a little noisy, and she's like, shh. Yeah.
As they're like knocking things around.
Yeah.
Like, that landlady is going to wake up here very quickly.
They go upstairs and
creaky stairs up, like
close the door, and before you know it, she's in bed. And they're making out, and they're having a good time.
They're snogging,
now,
to use the vernacular.
One of the things we haven't mentioned was when she was having visions of Sandy going out with some of these old guys, there was a mirror above her bed. Or she was just seeing a vision.
Well, above Sandy's bed.
So above her bed, she could see Sandy, like laying where she was laying.
Right.
And so it seemed like she was a part of it in the beginning. So while she's making out, and it starts getting hot and heavy with her boyfriend, she suddenly is looking up, and she's either seeing a mirror, I can't tell, or she's just having a vision, but she's now looking down on herself with her boyfriend as they kiss. But things change. The boyfriend kind of morphs into Jack. She morphs into Sandy. And now she's seeing a vision of them having sex, making love, and suddenly a knife comes out, right? And you see just a knife like in motion, plunging, and Sandy screaming, but Jack's screaming, they're screaming, and blood's going everywhere. And what's happening is...
And Ellie's witnessing.
Ellie is witnessing, and she's yelling. Stop it, stop doing this.
The black guy's like, what?
Yeah, the boyfriend.
The boyfriend is like, well, I'm not doing anything. He's standing over here, and he's like, and she's obviously reacting to the visions she's seeing on the bed.
Yeah,
I felt bad for him.
Yeah, I felt bad for him too.
I'm like, great.
So, but you
He's
just
gonna
knew
get blamed for this.
You just knew as you were watching this, she is screaming at the top of the lungs, "Please stop it! Don't do this! What are you doing? Help! Somebody! Help! Help!" She's saying help. So you knew the landlady was going to come up.
Yep.
She's hearing this. She comes up, sees the boyfriend there. She says, "You better get out of here, like in 3 seconds, or I'm gonna, kill you or call the cops or something like that." She goes, "And I'm gonna call the cops."
Right. Which is very liberal of her. This is 1960s, and he's obviously an African American guy.
No, this was modern day.
Oh yeah, right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking her. She's from the 60s.
Oh well, but it's modern day.
It's modern day. Yeah.
She's looking at Ellie,
right,
with this guy, and so.
But she saw that nothing was going on. But she's like, "Get out of here! I'm not going to call the cops. Are you okay?"
But this opens up the next Pandora's box, because before she simply goes back to bed, the landlady has a little discussion with her. Like, she goes, "I told you what the rules were. You disobeyed the rules. You do this again, you're out of here." And then Ellie says, I understand. One quick question. Was there a girl that was ever killed in this bedroom? And the landlady laughs and she goes, honey, this is London. There's somebody has died in every one of these buildings over the last 300-400 years. Right. These buildings have a lot of history, and a lot of people have died in these buildings. So she goes, I wouldn't doubt that somebody has died in this building.
Right.
But Ellie, the next day, that's not good enough for her. So she goes to the police, and she tells her story to the police, and the police are like, "This girl's crazy."
Yeah, their initial thing is like, what?
Yeah.
You're asking us if somebody got killed here in the 60s?
Yeah, but she's also saying, but you're seeing visions of this, but it's not the real people.
Because we know that we should point this out. So one of the things that transitioned very subtly was that Ellie starts having daydreamed.
Well, yeah, we've talked about that.
But I mean, she's all of a sudden starting to see, she'll be walking down the street and
said.
Yeah, you saw that the ghost, but I mean, it's happening more and more and more to the point where now it's like full on, like right in front of her and she's not sleeping anymore.
Yeah, we said that. We said it started off as shadows, but it intensified, and now she would walk around corners and she'd be face to face with a guy,
a
ghost.
random guy.
Yeah,
and now she's starting to see Sandy during the day.
Yeah.
And then she witnesses this whole thing when, because you kind of get an understanding or an impression that she's starting to go insane. That she's starting to really lose her marbles because she's now seeing these things during the day, and this is why she's getting more and more distraught. And then this. See,
I didn't think that, but I could see where average, ordinary citizens like the police would definitely think that. Like if somebody came and told me that in real life, I would have some doubts of her sanity, right?
Right.
So the police didn't believe her. So she decides that night she's going to go to the library, and she's going to go through the old files, and
she's going to solve this murder herself.
Happens to be a night where all of her classmates are at this library.
Because there's a big project.
There's a big project due like the next day. And so John is there, and this is the first time she's seen John since that
Basically
incident.
Screamed him out of her house.
And she apologizes, and she explains to John everything she saw and what's been going on. And this is where John says, well, how can I help you?
Well, he says, my family has these kind of weird aunt that sees spirits. And
they have the Shining, too.
The Shining, too.
She called it Shining. And for a long time, I thought it was just the two of us that had the shine to us. Just like you probably thought you was the only one. But there are other folks, though mostly they don't know it or don't believe it.
Or, there's a little bit of a voodoo thing going, maybe suggested or whatever.
He goes, I'll help you.
I'll help you, just because my family has this kind of thing going on, too. So, yeah.
So they start going through the records, the microfiche, and all this stuff.
He's going to help her, and then what happens?
Well, she first of all, she says, they're together, working together, and there's like a bunch of case boxes for like 1 year, 1966.
I used to get sick with those things when they go by.
So she says, he says,
I'm going to go get something. And then she leaves. She goes around the corner.
No. I think she excuses herself, like to go get something, and he stays looking through the thing. And because there was a moment where, as she's going around the corner, now she's
you start seeing the ghosts in the background.
All in like down every aisle. She sees them. And she's freaking out. She's trying to figure out which way she goes. And like she'll turn around the corner and she'll see a ghost right there of a man. She'll scream and she'll go around. And then as she goes around, that ghost disappears. And it's like one of her classmates right there going,
she's got the...
What's she doing?
Well, she grabbed the knife.
Well, we're not there yet. But what happens was they had a scene there where the guy is at the microfiche thing, and then you see some people coming up like behind him, and I thought they were either going to do something to him or touch him or something like that. I would love to see what would have happened, but what happened was there was a scream, and like as soon as that happened, the ghost disappeared and he turned around. That's where Eloise is going crazy. She pulled out something, right?
It was fashion scissors.
Fashion scissors.
They were huge. Yeah.
And she's looking at this ghost of a man in front of her, but
who's going to attack her? And she's like,
but they're also showing at the same time they're showing in real life, just like she was looking at Sandy in the mirror, and then it would actually be her. She would look at this ghost and it would be one of her classmates.
Well, she goes right out to kill her, and then the guy stops her.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the ghost disappears, and it's the lead, the mean girl chick.
Her ex-roommate.
Yeah, her ex-roommate. So that the knife is like this far away from her face, right?
Yeah.
So then it was like, okay, this girl's insane. And then she runs, I think, at that point and takes off. And then
she runs out, and the guy chases her,
and then he doesn't catch her. Is that when she goes to the bar?
No, she I think she goes to the bar, and that's where she has her last meeting with Terrence Stamp.
Because she tells him, I know what you did.
She's now thinking that Terrence Stamp is Jack, all grown up, right?
That he survived.
And that he survived. And Terrence Stamp has been acting creepy this whole movie to her. So you could very well be Jack. And so as he confronts her, or she confronts him, he's saying, yeah, I remember probably a girl named Sandy. She kind of had it coming to her, what was going on, but I tried to protect her. I tried to protect all the girls, right? And so I don't know when this happened, but she does go back one more time into the 60s. And what was interesting about this was she's in the club with Sandy. Sandy somehow makes it down to the basement of this club. And in the basement, there's all these private rooms where all these older men would take some of the girls of the club to have time with them. And all these girls were like strung out, like on heroin or like that. And that's when Sandy and Eloise together kind of realized the road that some of these girls have taken. And they were probably all Sandys at one point, coming to London, starstruck, wanted to be on that main stage, got caught up in this lifestyle, got caught up in the prostitution ring, got caught up in drugs, and now they're in a life that they can't break out of.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because Ellie is now realizing that she has to figure out what the murder was.
Right.
And so in order to do that, because she can't find any record of this blonde woman getting killed, I'm going to have to go back into the dream state and connect in. And that's when she all of a sudden hits Sandy, runs into this scene where Sandy's trying to run away from Jack. And then that leads to, where does she go? She's up in Ellie's back in her room, isn't she?
Yeah, she's back in her room. Jack's on top of her. And, she is it Jack's back on top of her? I'm trying to think of how this
because John should. She goes back to John and she says, "You know what? I have to get out of London. I'm leaving."
Yeah.
So then they go back and she's like, "But I got to go get my stuff."
That's right. And then she tells, so then she shows back up at her flat with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's in the car. She goes, "I'm just gonna go get my stuff. I should be done in 15 minutes.
I'm going to get my deposit," because she had 2 months deposit.
Yeah. And but once again, Ellie is afraid of the ghosts that are in that room, Right. So she goes, "If I don't come out of that room in 15 minutes, come up and get me."
Right.
Because she now fears the room.
Right.
So
you think at this point this has turned into some kind of ghost story with Sandy the ghost is trying to come back and tell her, "I was murdered by Jack in this room, and you are my only witness. You need to go get Jack."
Right. So that's what she's been on the...
But Ellie's now so distraught about the whole thing. Yeah. She's like, "I can't deal with this anymore. I'm just seeing ghosts and these people are chasing me." So
she goes back in, and this is where she's like saying to her landlady, "I'm so sorry. I did not think that this would ever be me breaking the rules. I didn't think this would be me breaking my rental agreement. I really do need that money to kind of get back home, and I'm gonna leave." And
what does the lady say? There, dear. Let me just put a little tea.
Please.
Let me get you a little tea. Would you be good with that?
Yeah,
spot of tea.
A little spot of tea.
A little spot of tea for you. Is that good?
So let me tell you my story.
Tell me all about your problems.
Okay.
All right. So
this is my problem. So once she kind of spills out what she's been seeing and what she's been doing
in that room upstairs, "You sure no one's died?"
That's when the landlady says, "Well, it's a shame, Ellie, that you had to go snooping around, telling people." She goes, "I had the
meddling kids.
I had the police show up today, asking about if there's been a murder here."
Right.
Starting to poke around. And you think for a second, like, she has a legit concern here. But then you start going, wait a second, my spidey senses are tingling. Right?
Was that what it was? You all of a sudden...
My spidey senses are tingling. And she's like, this is when Ellie kind of starts...
And Ellie's been sipping on her tea, telling her story.
This is when Ellie starts kind of, as the tone is turning, and she's like, "You've been doing this, opening your nose up where it shouldn't be going, blah, blah, blah." Ellie starts kind of piecing this together.
And we should point out,
and there's pictures.
Ellie's never been in her place.
Yeah, she's never been in her apartment in the 2-flat. But she starts looking and she sees pictures of...
A picture of Sandy on the wall in the background.
Yes. And then what you find out is Sandy in one of the flashbacks used the name Alexandria as to one of these old men, and she looks down at a piece of mail for this woman, and the name was Alexandria. Did you see that?
She had not identified herself.
She had not
as
identified
earlier. Yeah.
So she's now piecing together that her landlady is Sandy, and Sandy comes out and confesses, saying, all these men, they were freaking losers. They were users and abusers. And I decided I was going to take these men out. So you find out that this woman who's her landlady, who is Sandy in the visions, who you thought was killed, no. She was doing the killing. She was the Black Widow spider, who was the serial killer of all these old men. And where did she put all these old men's bodies?
In the floorboards of the room.
In the floorboards of the room.
In the walls of the room. And, and we had made this comment, like, there's no way that room would smell so bad.
Well, no.
But then remember what she said? There's an Italian restaurant, so everything smells like garlic all the time. Yeah. So you'll get used to it.
Yeah. That is true.
But then the boyfriend shows up, and he doesn't even say anything, like, what's that smell?
Well,
all those bodies in the walls?
But no, after 30, 40 years, they wouldn't be smelling anymore. There would be a smelling period for years. But by 2022, 1966 bodies are not going to be smelling anymore. Okay. But anyways...
it's good that you know that, by the way.
Yeah, I know that. So anyways, her boyfriend, what happens then?
Then the doorbell rings and her boyfriend shows up.
Yeah, her boyfriend.
So then that was all of a sudden Sandy, now old Sandy, has to go and answer the door. So Ellie makes a play to try to warn him. Right,
but what happened, didn't she knock something over that was on fire?
Sandy hits her, because remember Sandy's a big smoker.
Oh.
That was an ashtray.
Oh, so that was an ashtray.
It was an ashtray that fell into the collection of records. The irony, of course, is the records that Sandy's been listening to, and been obviously a heavy homage to the entire movie is starting to burn up. Because Sandy went and smacked Ellie down and it ended up knocking over an end table, and it dumped it right in.
So then the landlady, Sandy, opens up the door.
With a nice big shiny knife in her hand.
Behind her back. Said, yeah, Ellie's right upstairs. Come on up. So he walks in and he takes 2 steps, and then whoosh, she puts the knife in his stomach.
Right into the stomach.
Right.
And he's like, oh. And then Ellie got up, realizing, and so then I think Sandy starts going over towards her, doesn't she?
No, so Sandy's trying, it kind of angles herself at the base of the stairs, and then the landlady swipes at Sandy with a knife and cuts her hand.
Ellie with a knife.
Ellie with a knife and cuts her hand. Right? And then that's when Ellie's like, oh my gosh. But then starts kind of phasing out, in and out a little bit between her vision and the modern world, the vision, the modern world. Sandy somehow, it's not Sandy, Ellie makes her way up to the room to try to lock the door, where she does. She does make it up there. I think she kicks Sandy, who takes a tumble.
Well, she gets in there, locks the door. She's hiding on the other side of the bed where the emergency phone is sitting.
Yeah.
And then the ghosts start coming out of the wall.
The bat phone. It's a red phone that can only make one call for emergency. Doesn't call anybody.
It was green.
Was it? Oh,
it was one of those pea green ones from the 60s. But remember, she's trying to make the call, and all the ghostly hands are coming out of the woodwork and look like they're holding her down and pulling her back and not getting her to the phone. And then all of a sudden the ghost shows up.
Lots of ghosts show up.
Yeah.
And what are they all saying? And remember, in the beginning, when she started seeing these ghosts, out on the street in the alley, she couldn't understand what they were saying. They weren't making sense, but they were trying to say something.
Right.
Right? You're thinking they're leave this alone or something. No, now in the room, they're all saying, help us.
Yes.
Help us, right?
And then a ghost goes up and hits the phone and takes it off the receiver, and he's like, help us.
Yeah, because you know what? They were all murdered. They were all unsolved murders, and now the ghosts are inhabiting this room, and they want justice for what Sandy did to them.
And they're using Sandy as the vessel, because Sandy can see him.
Eloise. I know, we're going back and forth.
Going back and forth.
Don't worry, they did it a lot too in the movie. So
Eloise is the vessel
Yeah.
that the ghosts are now. They realize she can see them, and so
Yes.
they're telling her, "Help us, help us!"
Right.
But meanwhile, then all of a sudden, bam, bam, bam on
Yes.
the door.
Yeah.
Sandy, old Sandy, comes in and starts stabbing through the door.
Yeah.
Is about to, she breaks through the door.
Right.
And meanwhile.
And I think Ellie did make that call, or at least it got, made somehow, right?
Right.
Because there are now
Well, no,
stuff
there's a
in the
big
back.
fire in the back.
Well, there's a big fire now going
Downstairs.
Everything is being
So I thought
engulfed
those were
in
the
flames.
fire trucks. I don't think she made the call.
Maybe I don't remember exactly, but I do know that emergency vehicles were now on their way.
Right.
Of course, the 2 flat is in flames now. So if any neighbor
downstairs.
smelled that, saw that, heard that, they've already called for emergency on that.
Right.
So
And so then Sandy is standing there looking at Eloise on the bed, and then starts saying, I realize that I can't kill you.
right.
And then instead she decides to.
Well, she just realizes, you know what? I'm not leaving this place. It's going up in flames. My life is over. And,
She became kind of reconciliatory,
Yeah.
almost like that was a deathbed confession. wasn't
it was like a deathbed confession, and she apologized, but she said she didn't apologize for the men, right?
They deserved everything they got.
it. They deserved
But
it.
she definitely felt
but
bad
she
about
even
it.
says, "Go down, get your boyfriend, go get him some help."
Skipping a part.
Oh, am I?
She takes a knife and then cuts her neck open.
Well, no. I think she would say, "Go down, get your boyfriend," before she would cut her.
No.
She wouldn't cut her knife open and say, "Now go down and get your boyfriend."
Right, but I mean, I don't think she told her to go. I thought
She did. She said, "Go down,
Oh.
get your boyfriend, and get him help."
Okay, because I have a distinctive picture of Eloise walking down the stairs, and she's sitting on the bed with all the fires around.
Right.
And that was obviously after she had cut her neck open. So maybe it's just a timing thing.
The
Okay.
landlady did say, "Go get your boyfriend and go get him."
She
some
goes,
help."
but I thought and she was standing there, and then Eloise is like, "No, don't do it."
Yeah,
Because
she
then
did say that. She did say that.
So that was right after
that
she
was the
tells her to
end.
go do it?
Yes,
Okay.
that was right after.
So
that.
Eloise tries to stop her from cutting her own neck open after she's been told to get out of the room.
Right, and she obviously doesn't stop that. So now she realizes, I've got to make my way down the stairs. At the base of the stairs is her boyfriend, John, and
Fire everywhere.
Fire everywhere, but she helps him out. And as she's going down the stoop, that's when all the emergency people are coming in,
Right.
because they immediately take her boyfriend and put him on a gurney. And they kind of take her like to another ambulance. She's like on a gurney, like in a different ambulance, right?
Right. And then you see the picture of Sandy up there just sitting in the room with the
Yeah.
flames engulfed around. She's
Right.
basically committing suicide.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then all the spirits are being released from the
right.
floorboards and everything
Right,
like
'cause
that.
justice has now been
And
revealed.
it's done, right? So you think. So, but it kind of fades to black. You think this is going to be it, but it does kind of show, like a little bit time later, it shows a fashion show going on. And I mean, you see like models going down a runway wearing
very close copy of
very
what
close
she was doing
copies to
originally.
what Sandy was doing originally. Or I should say Eloise. But in the crowd of this, you see Eloise's grandmother sitting with a recovering boyfriend, John, and they are enjoying it. And the teacher, goes up and gives Eloise kudos. Even her friends that were like some of the models were like, amazing
job.
line. You did a great job.
The evil mean girl one though, she was still kind of like,
She was still salty.
You thought something was going on there.
Yeah, she was still salty.
So then Eloise, by the way, is now returned back to a brunette.
Yeah.
She's kind of gone back to the way she started. And so you get the impression that things are going great.
So she kind of makes her way to this back room of the wherever they're at doing this runway, and she's waiting for her grandmother and her boyfriend to come. But in the mirror, she takes a look, and surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, but interestingly, it is her mother, who she's always had the gift to see, and there was her mother smiling at her. But interestingly enough, when she was going through all these visions, you never saw her mother.
Yeah, I know.
Her mother had disappeared. So, but now her mother has come back and is standing there by her side, very proud. The grandmother and the boyfriend come in, and they say how much they are proud, and then the grandmother says, "Your mother would be so proud of you." And Ellie goes, "Oh, I know it already." So she turns to the mirror to look for her mother again, but there in the mirror with psycho music almost going, bam, 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 is Sandy.
The young Sandy.
The young Sandy in the mirror.
Right.
And she gives her a wink, blows her a kiss, and then we have 60s music come on, and we roll the credits.
Right.
And that is how it ends. So.
Yep.
So interesting movie, Dane.
Yeah, very interesting.
So
sort of a horror, Sixth Sense
horror.
Swinging 60s, but the seedy side.
Lots of cool music, right? So, would you have done anything different about this movie?
Well, yeah. I mean, we didn't go into there was a couple of loose ends there, but we were talking about the Terrence Stamp character, and he gets killed by Sandy. Basically chasing him, not chasing him, but I mean trying to get him out of the place. But the character had almost no point in this movie.
You're right.
There needed a payoff there.
There was no payoff there. He ends up, what happens is he's talking to her, he walks into the street and a taxi cab hits him.
Right, as he's turning around. I mean, there should have been, in my mind, what should have happened is that he should have went to the hospital and not died, and she should have went to the hospital and that's when she found out he was the cop. Because she finds out he's the cop in the bar that has the very distinctive way of saying, "Hey, sweetheart," and everything. And you don't know at the time, though, that he's a cop.
Right.
And so he's basically a character that shows up in her vision, which doesn't make any sense.
So the only reason the Terrence Stamp character was in this movie was to throw you off as the audience, because what they wanted you to think this whole movie was that he was the grown-up Jack,
right?
And
grown-up murderer,
and he was the murderer that she's trying to track down and prove that it's him. This was kind of like a mini MacGuffin. This had nothing to do with the movie except to put you on a journey to throw you off the scent.
Right.
So
exactly. And they didn't pay. There was no payoff with him other than you just find out, oh, he's the cop. But it's like, that seems like a really weird way to reveal it. You know, it's almost like they ran out of money and they needed to just close that off really fast.
Yeah.
But
I just think it was, and as much as I love this Edgar Wright as a director, I love Scott Pilgrim. I love a lot of the movies he's done. This was a poor script failure.
Right. Well, and to your point, I think he was also a counterbalance to using what's her name from the Avengers as this. They brought in this high actress to play Sandy as the old woman. It's what's her name, Diana Riggs.
Okay.
So it's like, you know, if Diana Riggs was there by herself, you'd be immediately
Who was
like...
Diana Riggs in the Avengers? I'm just curious.
The original Avengers with the British
Oh,
Avengers.
the old 60s with the guy with the top hat. The bowler hat and stuff.
Right,
okay, all right.
Yeah. So she's...
I was like, dang, was she in the MCU and I just didn't know about it?
I know.
Okay.
The original Avengers, even maybe before the Avengers in the comic.
Well, those weren't superheroes, but it was a different
more
thing.
like James Bondy.
Yeah.
But they brought her in, so I thought, well, they needed to counterbalance her.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that really made me mad, there's two big issues that happened in this movie, was she spiritually seeing ghosts? Yeah. Was she vision, like spirits? Were they coming back as, like we've talked about this, revenants, where they were ghosts inhabiting bodies? These were obviously
you can probably
dead spirits.
interpret it any way you want, but
but the rules changed.
I'm gonna say she could see ghosts, like The Shining. She had The Shining.
And I would agree, but then what ends up happening is that she was seeing it through a point of view of Sandy, and Sandy's not dead. So she's not a ghost. Yeah. So then what is she? It's like a manifestation of...
That's a good point. Sandy's not dead.
Sandy's not dead.
There's no ghost of Sandy.
So how is she seeing all these visions?
Yeah, I had not thought of that until you posed that right now. So
it makes no sense.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is that because there's a point in that scene with the teacup where the old Sandy says, oh, that room up there where all those guys died, the real Sandy died. I killed her, and then I decided to go kill all these men and take them on. So that was how they got past that point, because if they hadn't, Diana Riggs, the old Sandy, was like, what? How is she alive? And this one's seeing ghosts. Yeah. She's not a ghost. So it's almost like she's a spiritual, like they combine like
That's a good point.
psychic medium where she's picking up on the spiritual powers or something like that.
Well, I
you didn't
guess-
think about that, did you? Like,
No.
whoa.
I feel like a weak-minded fool that Jabba always says that Jedis can control your mind right now.
Yeah. Well, and then that's a big one. But then the second one is
But I would have gotten it on a second or third viewing.
right. But then on the other big problem with the screenplay in itself. Main character is supposed to drive the action through the entire movie. She is at the beginning trying to figure out, she always has an objective, what Sandy is. Then she realizes that Sandy gets killed. At least you're led to believe that. That's what the spirit of Sandy is telling you, because there's another BS thing there. Like, well, how did that happen? And then she changes it to, I need to figure out who Jack is. So then she starts going after the Terrence Stamp guy, because she's convinced he's Jack, because he must have killed her.
So where are you going with
Where
this?
I'm going with this is that in the end, when she goes and she's going to leave, she's not driving any of the action. She says, I'm leaving. She goes to the house. She then tells the landlady, I'm leaving. Then Diana Riggs goes after her, knocks her down, kills her. She's still
But it's
running
still
away.
happening to the main character. So I haven't taken a script writing course like you have, but I'm not going to look at this so analytical because, like you saying, she's not driving this but it's still involving her. It's still around the MC. So and she does get to her end state, her achieving an objective. So,
But what was her objective?
her objective was to leave all of this.
Well, so here's a question: are you supposed to feel sympathetic to Sandy or not sympathetic to Sandy?
Well, that's the great thing about what the writer has done. You can say you feel sympathetic for Sandy, but then you can also say she was. I mean, look, the Will Smith Chris Rock thing.
Yeah.
The nation is split on this, 50-50. A lot of people think Chris Rock deserved that Will Smith was.
But that's way different than this situation.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, there's many situations you can look at. She was probably killing a bunch of scumbags, but is that the right thing to do?
No, it's not.
Some people might say it was. Some people might say it was.
I don't know about that. I mean, murder's murder. You're saying some people would say murder's okay?
Well, if
in any case?
Yeah, there was a guy. Well, I don't even want to go down that path. I don't want to go down
that's
this
the problem with I saw with the end is that basically they turned the villain into a sympathetic character. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a minute.
No, but
Ellie was like, this is a woman who serial killed like 40 guys.
I don't think that you were supposed to feel sympathetic for Sandy at the end. I think what the writer was doing and the director's trying to do was he was trying to spin you on your head, where you felt sympathetic to her throughout the whole movie, but when you found out the truth, all of a sudden your realities changed and you were thrown for a loop, and the person that you thought you were rooting for was not the person you thought they were going to be.
And I agree with all of that. What happened in the end was that because of that, she goes upstairs, realizes that she feels sorry for, that I did all this, chops her own neck open, and then sits there and kills herself and commits suicide.
Well,
so Ellie didn't do anything.
Yeah, so?
But that's not the way movies are. What?
No. I mean, that's.
You're pointing at something.
No. I mean, that's her in her grief that she realized that the game is up. She killed herself. She deserved to die there.
So did Ellie instigate that?
Well, indirectly.
So we agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I think it was a lame ending.
I thought it was good. So why don't we bring in the people that we dismissed for...
We're going to disco in.
Yes, and let's do our Cult Lords ratings. Places everyone. We had all those dancers dancing their way to the Cult Lords ratings. That was nice to see.
Mm-hmm. I definitely thoroughly enjoyed all the hippies.
Hippies?
Yeah.
I liked some of the dancers better than others that we saw. So, all right. It is time for the Cult Lords ratings. So for those of you that came back in, we will do those, but typically I like to share with you the Rotten Tomato scores, which I never look at until after I've seen the movie and I'm putting together my notes for the show. So Dane, for the Rotten Tomato scores, the critics gave it a 76%.
Yeah.
Now, the audience gave it a 90%.
Ooh.
So a little bit of a difference there. Audience really loved it. Critics were pretty good with it. More than average. So, but those things don't matter. What matters is about what we're about to see right now.
That's right. None of those other things matter. It's only the Cult Lord ratings.
It's the Cult Lords ratings that matter. These are what we want etched into your mind, and go away and tell your friends.
These will never change either, by the way. Rotten Tomatoes will change over time.
Yes, that is right.
Which we found out the hard way.
All right. So Dane, on the count of 3, let's open it up for our audience to see what we rate this movie. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Downtown, great. Yeah, baby.
So,
Swinging 7.1.
So
yeah,
you
baby.
are a little bit close. Well, you're close to the critic score.
Yes.
That they were a 76. I was close to the audience score at
Yes,
an 8.8.
you were very close there.
Yeah.
Would you say they were a 9.1? No, what was this?
Oh, 90%.
90%.
90%.
So, yeah, we're in the vicinity.
Yeah. So
Once again, don't look at these at a time, and we've been pretty close to either critic or general audience of Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm just going to say, no spoilers since our folks are back in. I loved it. It was a great movie. I was entertained. I actually don't watch many of these with my parents, but I watched this one with my parents. They invited me over for a family dinner one night and got to see my family. And then I said, hey, you know what? Do you want to watch a movie? Because we're going to review this movie, and would you like to see it? We talked about this for 30 minutes, just talking about all the things that went on and how it tied together, and we had a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I will say kudos to the acting, kudos to the set design. I thought the locale, the
costumes,
the costumes, the music. I mean, they really did such an amazing job with just pulling that all together and creating a world that you'd wanted to look into. My problem with, I'm not going to go into a lot of details with it, but just screen inconsistencies and one big point that we talked about in the previous.
Yeah, but you know what? That big point obviously didn't make a big hill of beans to me because I didn't even realize it. So, so you realized something, a big point, but did that really take down the enjoyment of the movie for you? Maybe because you're a hard-ass script writer that,
my wife had we had a very similar conversation.
Well, you're watching it with her, so you're going to discuss your feelings.
Yeah.
So then she's going to be like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, right?
She pointed out a lot of interesting things too, like there's inconsistencies with the way Ellie was acting in a lot of ways. It's like, wait, this, we don't want to go into detail.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I just thought overall entertaining movie.
So your wife didn't like it?
Well, you saw what my score is right there, so I was so with it.
Okay. Well, but I asked about your wife. She didn't like it?
She didn't like it either.
Oh, okay.
So that was the cat. I mean, I
love this movie. I can see where people are overlooking this and, underrating this because I think this was entertaining, which is what the goal of the movie is. And it was very entertaining. To the very end, I was hooked. I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not going to go into spoil anything other than to say it seemed like they ran out of money in the end and they needed to write off a couple of things.
In the end?
Because that one important actor, the whole closings, whatever happened there, I mean, to me, it seemed like, and this is, a problem that happens a lot when a writer becomes a director, because we had the same issues with Jim Cummings, is that there's nobody there to like kind of objectively say, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? You need to clarify this, or it needs to be, the continuity needs to be, you know, forward a little bit, or really what is going on with her ability?
All right.
So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, if this was a movie that brought you down, we recommend Belfast if you need a pick-me-up.
Yeah.
That's our Oscar choice. Looks like a very uplifting, happy movie, right? And so
check out our reasons in Act 1.
Go to Act 1 to see our Oscar picks for Best Movie and how we came up with Belfast as being the best movie of the year based on the 2-minute trailer we saw. So
yeah, happy-go-lucky movie.
There you go. That ends Last Night in Soho, or as Dane wants to call it, Midnight in Soho.
Yeah.
He thought, you know, a little Midnight in Paris, Last Night in Soho, kind of mixing those two genres, because they do both go back into time, right? So it's very easily understandable why you would do that. But this ends Last Night in Soho week. We thank you for watching our act. Make sure to comment on this for a chance to win a copy of this movie, and you want this movie in your library, I tell you. Or also like the movie, subscribe if you haven't. 70% of you who are watching this right now are not subscribed, so we really need you to subscribe. We're going to have a come to Jesus meeting at some point this year when we look at our subscribers and should we continue doing the Cult Lords channel. You have a big say in that, and if you can get other people to come and like us too, we would appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I will get off my perch now, Dane.
You don't want us to send Darth Slapicus after you.
Darth Slapicus, also known as Will Smith, you know, he might show up at your doors.
What?
From the Academy. So.
He has no irons and no fires. All right. Are we dancing it out? Let's dance it out of here. See you next time.
Downtown.
The Cult Lords, now in